Hey there, welcome back to Let's Figure This Life Out Together. It has been a while. Yes, it's been a while. I've been very caught up with a bunch of things, and part of that was because I was not doing a good job with planning for my time or planning for some things ahead of time. But it's settled now and I am back. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you for watching my videos. Thank you for the comments. If you're new here, welcome here. Please subscribe and click on the notification bell so you don't miss any of this beautiful content. And if you've been coming back here and watching these videos and all that, you know that's a sign you like what you find here. So don't be a stranger. Click on the notification bell and subscribe. Just be a part of this. I promise you won't regret it.
We're just everyday people trying to make a difference. We want to know we got it right. We gotta know our purpose, gotta know it's worth it. We want to live a good life. We're just everyday.
Today I wanted to come on here and talk about self-awareness, and it's a very huge part of self-love. And I remember growing up, my dad used to say, always remember who you are and never forget where you come from. When I was younger, it didn't make much sense. It looked like if you go to school, remember how much your parents are struggling to pay your school fees, and just remembering that, just to focus at school and all that. But as I grow up, it gets more meaning, and at this stage of my life, it looks like knowing who I am when I pull myself out of the crowd, listening to my innermost voice, knowing my values, and understanding those things is very important. It's very important because it gives you direction, and it helps you also understand some of the areas that you need to work on. So yeah, I have some notes right here. As usual, when I don't write down things, I tend to go all over the place. So I'm trying to teach myself not to go off topic when I'm talking. So I want to talk about some of the things that I have done to help me understand myself better, and also what it looks like to be self-aware. And my number one point is paying attention to your thoughts, like literally turning off the outside noise and listening to your thoughts. Sometimes listening to my thoughts has been like understanding my perspective about certain things, about certain topics, because it's easy to be pulled into the crowd when you hear a bunch of people having opinions. And for me, it has been important to understand that, oh, this is what my friends think and this is what everybody thinks. I found it very important to really listen to myself and examine that based on my values and based on who I am, like what is really my perspective, right? That has helped me make decisions better. The reason why we're all different is because we all bring something different to the table, and when you don't allow yourself to really show up as yourself, even when you're giving out your ideas or sharing all that, then we're killing the whole purpose of us being different. Listening to your thoughts looks like being able to examine them, like examining your thoughts in terms of what are some of the toxic thoughts that I have, right? If I feel a certain way, or if I'm having these thoughts about somebody, I need to examine those thoughts. If I don't pay attention to them, then I'm not able to examine them, right? I'm not able to tell where they're coming from. I'm not able to act accordingly. And sometimes knowing your thoughts helps you understand some of those areas in your life that you need to work on. The other thing is knowing your limits. Sometimes you just need to pay attention to your body and know that, okay, when I do this amount of work, my body really gets exhausted. So understanding that helps me to know when to rest, to know when to take a break. If I do not pay attention to my body, then I am going to exhaust it, and I'm going to try to fix things when it's actually too late. So like, and that's for the physical part. Sometimes mentally you need to know conversations that you don't have the capacity to be a part of. I remember when I was younger, I used to debate a lot, and okay, it was good to some extent. It was really, really good being a part of debate growing up, but for me at some point it became toxic because I would always argue about everything, and I would not only argue but take things personally. I would feel like, I would argue to an extent. I would really, really get frustrated, but that was toxic to me because I would leave conversations that were meant to be constructive frustrated and mad. So what I needed to know in that moment is to know when to just let go. And now I'm trying to put a point across, but this person is not gonna get it anyway. So yeah, it's okay. I can just let it go because it's getting nowhere. Sometimes it looks like knowing that, with this, I can't get into this particular topic with this specific person, because whenever we have this conversation, I get triggered. And sometimes by the way, they mean well with those conversations and topics, but knowing some topics are so sensitive. Like for me, topics that involve talking about women and their rights and all this, when I talk to someone whose perspective is totally against mine in a way that I don't find constructive, I can't get involved in that conversation. So I'm aware to tell someone, well, we can talk about anything else, but this specific topic is a trigger to me. I can't have this conversation with you. And that's not because I always want to talk to someone who we agree with, but it's because I need to know some of those topics that are triggers to me, like knowing that I would love this conversation to be constructive, but because there are things about this topic that I've had an experience with that matters so much to me and probably don't matter to that person, I'm like, well, let's just keep this topic off the table. We can have all these other conversations, because I just mentally can't do it. Just know how far you can go with something, how far you can go physically, how far you can go mentally, how far you can go emotionally. Like, you just need to know. Another important thing is, how we talk about certain topics, and maybe talking with friends or talking with family, and you are just mentally exhausted. And some topics need you to really be fully present. And when you're exhausted, you can't have you're not providing enough in that conversation. It's not being as productive. Like, knowing that in that specific moment, you don't have the capacity to have that conversation. Like, being aware of that and not forcing it, and communicating to your family or your parent or your whoever that is, and telling them, I don't have the capacity to talk about this. Can we talk about this tomorrow? Or can we address this tomorrow? Or can we address this some other time? Right now, I would love to have it, but I really can't because blah, 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 because I'm too exhausted, because I am stressed with these things. Just knowing that. Knowing what makes you happy or sad. I'll start with happiness. There are certain things that society has defined to be the definition of happiness, or even how to have fun. And we have convinced ourselves that if I'm not doing these things, I am not a fun person, or if I'm not doing these things, I am not having fun. And when you look at yourself that way, then you tend to project that to others. I've heard people call others boring. I've had people call themselves boring because they're not doing what society defines to be fun, or they're not doing what they expect is fun because that's what society has told them. And maybe going out to a party is something that people find to be fun, but I don't, because it mentally exhausts me. No matter how exciting it is, I might not find it fun, in my opinion. And it's not even just in my opinion, but my body communicates. Sometimes fun would look like spending a day by myself and maybe watching a good movie or reading a good book or listening to music or just hanging out with a friend. It just looks different for me. And I want to just let you know, if there's someone out there who is like me, I want you to know that society doesn't determine that for you, because the fun is interpreted by you. No one else has to interpret it for you. Don't put yourself in spaces that drain you in the name of wanting to fit in and wanting to measure up to the society's standards. And also for people that want to impose those things on others by calling them, that person is boring and all that. I want you to know how much that affects the other people that you call that, how much you have them doubting themselves, because not everybody has the capacity to stand and say, you know what, this is not fun for me and I'm okay with it, with you not approving it. Please be mindful when you're saying that. Be mindful, know that you're imposing your own definition of fun and happiness to the other person, but you're two different people. Knowing your toxic traits. This is one of the hardest things to address about ourselves, and it's one of the hardest things for us to admit, that there are things about us that are toxic. And when you're not aware of them, you go around affecting others with your decisions, with the way you behave, with the way you treat them. I think having that awareness helps you in moments where when you're interacting with others, like catching yourself projecting on others, like catching yourself in the moment and knowing, and this goes back to examining your thoughts. It's just knowing, I hate this thing about myself, and seeing another person with the same thing that I hate about myself puts me in a place of projecting. I've had people boldly saying, that person is ugly, like confidently saying that. And when you actually listen to those people for a long time, you realize they have insecurities about themselves, and when they see another person to project that on, they do. So examining yourself in those moments and knowing, what I'm about to say, am I projecting? Just catching yourself, because when you catch yourself, of course it doesn't solve the problem, it doesn't solve whatever toxic trait that you have, but it limits you from hurting other people, right? It prevents that damage that you cannot really take away, because once words are said, they are never taken back. Like catching yourself in the moment, and then as you work through it, you're able to grow and outgrow them and seek help. And it helps you a lot. It helps you, and it helps people around you. That even when you hurt someone and they air out something, you don't become defensive immediately, because when you're aware that there's something about you that is not right, and maybe when somebody brings it up, you're able to even be vulnerable to them and tell them, you know what, that is something I'm struggling with and I'm trying to work on it. I'm sorry that I hurt you. I'm sorry that it affected you. I'm sorry that you became a victim. That's almost everything that I had talked about self-awareness, and it never stops. You keep learning things about yourself, and you keep getting better at it. Take this information and customize it. Like, how does that apply to you? And also, it doesn't have to be only these things that I've talked about, because there's a bunch of things about yourself that you need to know. And please take your time and learn about yourself. And yeah, thank you so much for being here today. We just concluded our self-love series, and I just want to thank you for being with me on this journey talking about this. It wasn't a very easy topic to talk about, but I'm very glad that I talked about it. And it's not, like I said, everything that I said is not the only thing about self-love, and everything I said is not the only way of defining self-love and all that. There's so many ways. I just expressed my perspective and hoping that it helps somebody out there find themselves, love themselves, and take care of themselves. Go ahead, share a comment. Yeah, I want to hear from you. I want to learn from you. What have you done to be more self-aware? What are some of the struggles that you going through that journey, and how much has it helped you? I want to know. I want to learn from you as much as you hear from me. Thank you so much. I will see you next time. Take care. Have a great week. Bye.